Hello there, and thanks for listening in to Henderson Performance Radio. Today, you get to hear a conversation with strength coach Michael Wille. Michael is a super strong and super nice guy. He is a certified beast tamer and can display some pretty amazing strength and control and mobility, which you can see plenty of on his Instagram, Michael_Wille_. That's WILLE. In this episode, we get into Mike's start in fitness and training, how the kettlebell entered the picture, how the FRC entered the picture, and how he uses all of these tools where he currently trains at the Physical Culture Gym in Tampa Bay, Florida. So, without further ado, this is Michael Wille. All right, we are on the line with strength coach, Mr. Michael Wille. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing, Zach?
Oh, very good, very good. So, let's see. Our paths crossed, I think, just over a year ago.
In Chicago.
Yep, in Chicago. And it was obviously there that we met, and I got to see firsthand just not only how strong you are, but how obviously genuine of a cool guy and good coach that you are. And unbeknownst to me, you're also a beast tamer and are no stranger to some pretty amazing feats of strength. So before we get into all that fun stuff, how did you get your start in the fitness world?
First of all, I don't know if I deserve all that hype, but thank you. Really, gym-wise, I was kind of a late bloomer. I played a lot of sports growing up, baseball, some unorganized basketball and football, kids in the neighborhood type thing, but nothing organized. Baseball was my organized sport. I also was, we'll say, a decent, pretty good skateboarder, so I got into kind of that skateboarding scene in high school too, so there was that. So gym stuff, I never really got into gym lifting weights. I was the little scrawny high school kid growing up into the scrawny older guy, but it was when I was in North Carolina. My friend brought me to the gym for the first time. I was probably like 21, and we did the basic. It was Monday probably, so it was chest, shoulders, triceps type thing.
Sure.
And I just kind of caught the bug from there. Started off probably how everybody else starts. The bodybuilding splits, the muscle mags, and all of that. Went to college. Found kind of how much I liked it. Went and got a job at the campus gym. Got my degree in exercise physiology, which would have been kind of a pre-physical therapy, but Florida State University, where I went, didn't have a pre-physical therapy, just exercise physiology plus the prereq. So I went there and just kind of fell in love with, it's hard to say the gym culture because it wasn't necessarily the bro gym culture I did get kind of enamored with. It was just, another expression of moving your body, strength, all that kind of physical activity that I wasn't really doing anymore in sports. Might have filled that gap initially.
Right.
And then after that, going out of graduating college, moving back to Tampa Bay area, kind of finding where I wanted to go with it. Right out of school, it was kind of more like the ACSM, the exercise test and prescription type of boring protocol where I started losing my kind of passion for it. It was only so many exercise prescriptions at 20, 30 minutes, 6 to 7 times a week at 65 to 75% maximum heart rate type of protocols you can go without driving yourself in crazy and doing just sit and reach tests and everything. So I was working out of a gym in Tampa where I saw one of the trainers kind of doing different stuff that I've never seen before. And that's where he introduced me to the great cooks, Mike Boyles, Alan Cosgroves. And that's where I really kind of found my niche. Because small guys like me, we're not going to survive too long in the bodybuilding box gym world too long.
Right.
But I don't know. It's just that's where I really kind of found my passion for what I do.
Yeah.
There's something more than just getting huge.
Right.
There's something more, maybe, I wouldn't say more important, because I'm not in a position to say what's more important for an individual. But for me, and the way I viewed, physical culture, wellness, fitness type, whatever you want to call it, that was more speaking to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we'll call it functional training, whatever that means now, but that whole functional kind of training corridor that I went down.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously funny to hear you mention that, because I very much can relate to the sentiment of being a somewhat smaller guy. I'm like 5'6" and right around 150 pounds.
Yeah.
Which I think we're pretty much in the same ballpark there. And
Yeah.
the whole bodybuilding and popular bro split approach. I realized very early on that wasn't going to be something that was going to sustain my motivation, and wasn't something that I could really get behind. But of course, it serves its purpose, and then
Obviously, actually, yeah.
yeah, and much like you, when I kind of saw the opportunity that you could take fitness into more of a skill-based kind of approach, that obviously really made it all click on my end as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a part of it where it's a marketing tool. People, when you go into a box gym and they're looking for a trainer, it's that guy's huge, he must know what he's talking about type thing, or but there's nothing wrong with that bodybuilding. If that's what you're looking for, that's the kind of person you go after.
Yep.
If you're looking for something else, maybe you go that route. And you just have to find your way, your niche, your passion, and really own it. And I think then you become kind of what the big dude is too, somebody looking to get big. But not everybody's looking to get big. Some people are looking for something different, and I was looking for something different, and you kind of seek that out.
Yeah. So at this particular point in your career, you've kind of dove headfirst into the what you might call the functional training space. Now, did the whole kettlebell thing come soon after that?
Not really. My awareness maybe came, but I don't know, the early days of the RKC, I was aware, but there was something about it that didn't make me buy in. There was that kind of militaristic, kind of boot camp, kind of like it was kind of marketed and geared towards more martial artists and law enforcement type thing, where people in that realm are more used to kind of that drill sergeant approach, that harder edge. And that wasn't quite me. I have, my stepdad is retired Army, 82nd Airborne. I lived on Fort Bragg for a while. I know what real military is, and that kind of, I don't know, essence of military that wasn't real military for people didn't jive with me. So I think that at first kind of turned me off to looking further into RKC. Not that what they were doing wasn't what I liked, it's just maybe the marketing end of it, how it was presented to me initially, I didn't buy in. Through the functional training, great cook, Mike Boyle, I was on strengthcoach.com, actually MikeBoyle.biz before that, and Sport Specific before that, until it became Mike Boyle, Strength Coach. And I kind of knew Brett Jones as, hey, he's the FMS guy before he was the kettlebell guy to me. Right. So kind of talking with some online with Brett Jones, he kind of eased my we won't say fears, but those hesitations I had. And I finally, I was messing around with some of the kettlebells that we got in the gym, self-taught type thing. So I ended up going to signing up for the RKC, really excited about it too. And rest is history.
Sure. Now, what approximate time period was this?
Okay, the RKC, the time period was the most hectic time to maybe get into the RKC. I signed up, And 2 months later, the split was announced. So, yes. So
Now,
I'm like,
yeah.
the whole reason was like kind of Brett Jones. I'm a Brett Jones kind of guy. I'm going to go, he talked me into it. Now what type of thing?
Sure.
But they made it where, if you get it transferred over. So whatever.
Yeah. Well, I was, in a very kind of similar boat. I can't exactly say I was too much into the training space, actually. I wasn't even really a trainer until basically when I got certified, but I had the opportunity to train out of Gray Cook's office with one of his guys, and he was the one who encouraged me to go for the RKC in 2012 in Vienna, and that's why I was bringing it up, because either we were at the same cert or it was within a couple of months of each
Yeah.
other.
I was at the San Jose, the last San Jose
Oh,
one that
gotcha.
Brett Jones was part of RKC. But
Gotcha. Yeah, so I think that was either right before or right after mine. But yeah, and so then obviously from there, at a certain point in the future, then when did the Beast Tamer come on your radar?
really not even close on my radar anytime early. My PR at my level 1 was a 32 kilo press.
Aha.
Like I had no kind of illusions or disillusions of becoming a beast tamer. I mean, I had pull-ups and the pistol. Those I'm pretty strong with. I can pretty much do those cold anytime. It's just, press. I'm not. That wasn't even entered in my mind. Like, oh, I'm going to build up so that I can press this 48. It just, I, I treat it like a practice, like we preach. It's a practice. Over a couple of years, through regular, consistent practice of not killing myself, my press started going up. Went up a little bit more. I, pressed a 40. Then I got some good, like, couple doubles with the 40, and then one of my clients bought me the 48, and then one day the press went up, and I'm like, hey, let's maybe do this.
Cool.
Type of things. Yeah, it was nothing I didn't program to press the beast until I had already had a 1 rep, as ugly as it was probably at the time, but the 1 rep where I pressed it, then I was like, okay, I want to make sure I have this for the beast tamer when I next get the chance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first time I actually programmed specifically for any particular part of the beast tamer. And of course, I missed it on my first attempt, so I don't know how good the programming was at that point.
Right. So let's see. Of course, there's certainly plenty, to dive into from, the programming and the training approach. And specifically, one of the things I think is really cool with what you're doing is obviously there is the FRC approach, which it looks like you're marrying with a lot of the kettlebell stuff that we all know and love. So as it applies to maybe what you're up to today, what does some of your personal training look like?
Let's see. In regards to the functional range conditioning or the functional anatomy seminars type programming, it really just falls into what we teach anyway. It's without even getting into name brands or anything like that. I'm not obviously I'm not a spokesperson for any Strong First, RKC, FRC, FMS. I'm not speaking for them. I'm just gonna kind of speak on my interpretations and my applications of what I've learned through those systems. So I'll kind of throw that caveat out there. But really, it's before we get into specifics of FRC, where I look at what all the smart people are kind of saying. What are the smart people saying? They're saying move well before you move often, right? Or as Charlie Weingroff has put it, are your joints able to get into the positions to adapt and absorb forces? Can you absorb and adapt to stress? Functional range conditioning, they say, do you have the prerequisites for the movement, the exercise, the whatever your activity, do your joints have the requisite ability to do that? And that's, what smart people are saying. And then a lot of smart people are coming up with the same kind of ideas, principles of mobility training. And that's I just find the FRC system is very organized. It's very intuitive, and it's nothing new. It's just science has been around forever, but packaged and presented in a logical, progressive kind of manner. So with that said, we do screening. Can you do your joints give you the ability to do a squat before we goblet squat, front squat, whatever? If they don't, we need to identify why you can't do that. Then we have to train those positions or those joints or those whatever to make you be able to get into the correct position to load you. Then we progressively load you. So that's kind of how it kind of integrates. So with functional range conditioning specifically, we kind of view mobility a little bit, let's see, we view mobility as flexibility plus strength. So it's basically strength training in ranges, and then how do we best do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest problem that you see, internet argument-wise, whether even pertains to mobility or not, is let's first all agree on what we're talking about. What are we defining as mobility? Because I see that a lot is, how do different people or different systems define mobility? And then a lot of arguments kind of fall off from there. In FRC, we say, basically it's your usable range of motion, active control over, and have strength in those ranges of motion. Some other mobility, it's to your joints excursion. How far can your joints be moved? Whether or not there's strength or motor control in it, and then they divide the motor control into something else. So I think that's what we need to define first. So from now, I'll just try to be as specific as I can when I'm saying something in our discussion.
Sure. Well, it's interesting, like, especially, I don't know, I guess a couple of years ago when maybe some of the tenets of the FRC kind of started hitting some popularity. It all seemed very simpatico with, a lot of the other systems that, we're traditionally kind of familiar with in the training world. And it always seemed to me like it seemed like the logical kind of progression, for lack of a better term, of how we apply strength and mobility. And yeah, from what I gathered, now granted I haven't gotten any official education on it, but yeah, it all seems to make sense and just be a logical progression on the stuff that we've been doing and reading about for the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah, I think Andrea Spina kind of alludes to that in all his seminars. He says, you know what? I'm not coming up with anything new. If I was coming up with something new, there'd be a problem. So these things are out there. He's not inventing anything. He's taking the science that is already out there and just presenting it into a kind of a cohesive system. So yeah, you're going to see a lot of overlap because these things are agreed upon for the most part across names.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's just say, maybe just getting a little tactical here for someone who may not be familiar with anything that we're talking about right now.
Okay, yes.
Why don't you kind of walk us through a couple of the basic kind of principles and maybe what some of the techniques kind of look and feel like?
Okay, so with functional range conditioning, we're trying to identify, like I said, joints that don't work. Joints that aren't joints. What I mean by that is, again, going back to, can your joints achieve positions where they're safe to adapt and to stress? So, whatever screen you do, FMS, FRA, but whatever alphabet soup letters you want to throw out there that your screen is, whether it be, I just look at them exercise and I see what I need to see type thing. As long as you're screening, because I think we need to set a baseline and identify if the body's even able to do what we're trying to coach them to do in the first place. Having said that, FRC specifically, what you might have seen online, the CARs. CARs are just controlled articular rotations. The big difference between what we call CARs and just joint circles is the level of intent. So we're not just drawing a big circle, we're trying to make all motion occur at a single joint. We're trying to make as big a controlled rotation in that joint as we possibly can. The reason why we do large rotations is because the largest number of mechanoreceptors are inside of the capsule itself, and you're going to stimulate the most of them doing a big rotation. So we're trying to stimulate mechanoreceptors for joint maintenance, joint health. Joints are very avascular, so there's not a real direct blood flow or nutrient supply into the joint. So the only way they get nutrients in, pump waste out, is through movement. So we need to daily go through a full range of motion. We use CARs. So that's with the CARs that you might have seen, where it just looks like people, doing stupid circles. It's literally the use it or lose it. If you're not using a specific range of motion, your body wants to be very efficient, and it will discard ranges of motion that you don't use on a daily basis. So those are just a way as daily joint maintenance. Think of it as like brushing your teeth for your joints type of thing to keep them healthy and not lose range of motion over time. Then we're looking to expand ranges of motion. That's with the silly, we'll say the letters PALS, rails. That's progressive angular isometrics, regressive angular isometrics. So they use isometrics a lot in FRC because they're safe in end ranges, they're effective, and they can be used in multiple instances, whether it be rehab at lower intensities where you're not causing as much inflammation. It could do for strength. We're trying to increase ranges of motion at the end ranges. So if you remember back to exercise science, the strength curve where you're kind of weaker at end ranges, stronger in mid-range, nobody says that you're not able to increase your strength at these end ranges and bring that curve up. So that's what you're seeing with the PALS rails, is we're creating a lot more strength at our end ranges of motion. Now that's going to help us because we want more force production when we're at the end ranges, whether you're in a bent press and locked out at the bottom and you come up and you're in end range. We need that strength production there. Or in athletics, you're reaching behind you to grab somebody. If you have flexibility to be pulled into an extreme range of motion, but you don't have strength to control it, that's going to become a problem. So building some strength and resilience in end ranges are a big part with those isometrics. And then kind of controlling and kind of integrating it into more movement with some of the other acronyms. Mm-hmm. And you kind of see that stuff as the fancy stuff on social media.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's very cool stuff. Some things that I've played around with, and again, like I could definitely see how it is kind of the natural progression of the stuff that we've been doing, and to some degree, and this kind of may or may not be obvious. It almost seems like from a strength coach point of view, like that's almost how yoga maybe could be approached from like that strength and conditioning frame. It's like, mm-hmm. We can get into all these pretzel-like poses
exactly.
or what have you, but it's
it's not going to help you,
right?
When it becomes movement, exercise, sport, whatever. Yeah, it's one thing to be able to be put into a position. It's another thing to be able to control and get into that position.
Right. Yeah. So
you might have, Lincoln, I saw your some of your pistol videos. Uh-huh. You might, there's a good illustration. You see the people that kind of descend, and when we teach people our kettlebell training, to pull themselves, the active negatives, right? Active negative, pull yourself into the squat. So if you're going to do a pistol, pull yourself into the hole of the pistol. But I'm sure you've seen, a lot of times where it's like that pull, hit some particular range of motion, and then the bottom drops out and just boom, flop onto the bottom. So you're able to be put into that range of motion. You have passive range of motion to get into the bottom of a pistol. You lost all strength, all active ability to control that range of motion when you dropped into the bottom of that pistol, and it's going to be harder. You're going to have to use kind of like that elastic recoil to bounce out of the bottom of that pistol if you can't produce that force. And doing a high volume, say you're going for a beast tamer, or you're trying to get your pistol up high. If you're doing high volume and you're constantly dropping through an uncontrolled range of motion, that can become a problem as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I would just, maybe hope that there's, again, going back to the whole yoga idea, I would assume that there's hopefully at least one, if not more, instructors who are maybe trying to pull those principles together. Because of course, I'm always going to be the strength guy, somewhat of the meathead guy, and again, I don't want to harp on yoga too much. I love doing yoga, but I don't really want to have my foot placed behind my head, so to speak. But the idea of being able to put my foot behind my head somewhat appeals to me.
Yes.
The subtle but important difference. And
yes.
So I certainly hope that this is a particular subtlety that can kind of pervade more of the masses, if you will, in fitness.
Yes, nobody's gonna mistake me for a yoga guy or a yoga expert either. But I do know a few yoga instructors that have gone through the FRC, and they use the principles into the yoga practice. Now, from what I've been told by them, this is anecdotal, but the yoga is kind of entrenched in kind of how do you say kind of a tradition. We'll call it tradition, or they have a certain way of this is how it's done. Anything deviation from the way it's done is not yoga or whatever.
Right.
So maybe there's a slower buy-in, but there's some overlap. In yoga, it's about, can you get into these positions? It's all about get into this position and sit in this position type of thing. Now, obviously, there's some yogas that are a little bit different, but again, I'm not an expert and I can't tell you the difference. But the big important takeaway is, yes, there's not much use in achieving a position if you can't move through positions and control positions with a good amount of strength.
Yeah. So this kind of leads me to, obviously, even more of how this shows up in the real world. You're obviously working at, and you are currently, as we speak, at the Physical Culture Gym are you in Tampa, is that right?
Tampa Bay area. We're in Largo specifically, yeah.
Gotcha.
So it's about a 20-minute drive outside over the bridge of Tampa.
Cool. So
right near the beaches.
Yeah. So tell us about your gym, and it's relatively new. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, we opened up officially in January. We're a sports performance and fitness facility, kind of specializing in movement-based strength training, or we'll call functional training. But we kind of sell it as we want to make sure that we're getting you moving well and getting you stronger than you've known you can be, type of thing. Unofficially, I kind of like to think of it as I'm kind of a hardcore gym for the people that don't even know that they're hardcore, type of thing.
Gotcha.
The housewife, the mom, the grandmother, the young business professional. These people that have never thought that they could be like superstar status or superhero, kind of getting them to do things that they never thought they would be able to do. So, we get them moving well, we get them moving as often as we can, and we load them up as much as is appropriate for them. and then progressively challenging them. So basic principles, principle-based, result-based fitness.
So, for example, if somebody was maybe somewhat interested in checking out your facility, they walk in, what does the onboarding
Okay,
look like?
the onboarding, we do free consultation. We do a FMS screen on everybody that comes into the gym. So we have that on record so that all our program can be based on that. We do a fundamentals class where we kind of go over our core principles. We go over, we're a barefoot optional gym, so we explain the benefits of going barefoot, and also where we might want them to actually put shoes on. So there's some, whenever we do some of the power stuff, I tell everybody, it's a great idea to go barefoot, but if your back was in a back brace for 20, 30 years, I wouldn't have you deadlift heavy the first day out of the back brace. We need to, adapt and get the tissues ready for more and more loading on the barefoot. So we do a lot of barefoot training, but when appropriate for the appropriate person. Then we go over, our breathing, both respiratory and for stability, show them how we want things done there. We go through what cars are, the benefits of cars, so that they can do that every day, and I don't have to sit there and watch them do their car warm-ups or rotation warm-ups during a class or session. Then we go over our basic fundamental, we'll say, movements, so hinge, squat, push, pull. I add in a get up to elbow for everybody comes in, so that at least they have that. Then I go over just kind of the basics. We have, dumbbells, barbells, sleds. So I show them the kettlebells, how to hold it, how to, what's unique about kettlebells that, you don't do with dumbbells, kind of that background, safety of our barbell use, spotting, holding the bar, all that fun stuff. So we go, it's just a full onboarding on just the principles and how to get them comfortable in our gym, and what, setting up expectations and goals. We then have different memberships based on that. I don't know if you wanted me to go over all that.
Well, it's, I guess I really should say what I'm really interested in is
Yes.
How do
I play with the programming?
Yeah, how does all this stuff that
Okay.
we just talked about translate into somewhat of a
Excellent.
your average
Yes.
audience?
Okay, so for, like I said, we do the FMS screen. We identify what we can, we'll call kick their butt in. What exercises are, green, good to go. Let's, get after it with. What exercise and what joints do we need to address? We give them the cars, and then we have for open gym programming for every 2 months. I have the program written up for them to do. The open gym is they do the programming on their own. We have me and Ryan, my co-owner, working on the floor to help assist with some of that for instruction. But programming wise, this is kind of what everybody that takes the FRC, okay, this is great. How do I use it? And the big thing, I think, is finding how it works for you and how much you're comfortable adding in at first. Ideally, if you don't have the shoulders to go overhead, then you probably shouldn't be doing any overhead work, and you should be spending a lot of time gaining some shoulders that can maybe go overhead. To tell people that they should stop doing something isn't really going to get a lot of buy-in a lot of times. So what we do is I treat it kind of mobility, since it is flexibility plus strength, as strength training. So I'll have it throughout the program. So say, it's a lower body primary lift day. We're going to do single leg deadlifts or kettlebell deadlifts or barbell deadlift, whatever our core lift is for the day. And then I'll have them superset that with some pails, rails work, or lift offs, or some kind of FRC type exercise, whatever that may be that is for them, upper body wise. So I try to get that as either assistance lifts or accessory work within the strength training. I kind of have a Boyle-esque type thing with that, with tri-setting and quad setting, lifts with a core exercise, with a mobility exercise, and I try to put that mobility exercise specific to their needs through, one of our screens.
Mm-hmm.
So and we also offer kin stretch classes, which is kind of an FRC encompassing group exercise class. So they get a lot of exposure of the mobility through that as well. You kind of have to, and then the cars every day, but you kind of have to get in the strength training they need as much as they need it. If you have to deem as a coach, what do they need for what they're wanting to do? If somebody's goal is tons of mobility, you're going to have to program a tons of mobility for them. If their goal is to be competent in being able to squat and they don't have the ankles to, we need to focus on ankles, and we can program that stuff in. And then we, like I said, there's no requisite amount of mobility really that we either need or don't need. Some people we need more. We deal with baseball players here. They're going to need more mobility in certain parts of their body, especially if they're a throwing athlete, than some housewife or office worker coming in. They have different needs that their body's going to be demanded of, so that we need a program appropriate for what mobility do they need.
Yeah, good stuff.
I hope that answers it. I kind of rambled all over.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think really it's the same approach that probably anybody else in our kind of, neck of the woods in terms of training, kind of the same general approach. Is just another tool in the toolbox, another thing to kind of frame your training around.
Yeah, I mean, think of it this way, like maybe more people right now are familiar with FMS protocol. In FMS, all you need is a 2, and you're kind of set to go, right?
Yep.
So, but, maybe certain people, like, say, an Olympic lifting athlete, they're probably going to need maybe more than a borderline 2 to compete healthy in their sport. So we kind of make note of that, right? Some people have deemed soft 2s, hard 2s type thing in reference to scoring in FMS. So they kind of fall in a range of, we need it to be kind of this range for it to be acceptable for the activity they want to do or we need them to do.
Right.
And some people are going to need more, so we need to program appropriately.
Yeah. Yeah, well, cool thing, Mike. So just kind of wrapping up here, what is on the horizon for you in your own training or with the gym here for the rest of the year?
My own programming. I was going to start one of the strong endurance protocols to test on myself. Got a little sick on the flight back from Denver, but we'll start that up next week. But other than that, I'm not going to be doing the TSC this time, so I'm not going to be training for that this time. Eventually, get back on a deadlift program. I'd like to work on that a little bit more again. So,
cool.
Other than that, it's a lot of my personal training taking a little bit of backseat as I do a little bit more of the gym programming, marketing type stuff for now.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see if anybody wants to say hello or reach out, either if they're local or not. How do they find out more about you and what you got going on online?
Sure. You can email me, michael@physicalculturegym.com. You can say hi on social media, Instagram. Not too much on Facebook, but you can message me there. Other than that, the email is probably going to be the best way if you need something specific more than just a hi.
Absolutely. Well, cool thing, Mike. Again, really appreciate you taking the time to chat, seeing your stuff, obviously, since we're talking about social media, seeing your stuff on Instagram on the regular is always pretty inspiring to me. Gives me some ideas of some stuff that I need to work on, so I'm well on my way.
All right. Well, I appreciate that again. I don't want to be like the guy that I need to be like. I don't need to be the guy that everybody says, "Oh, I need to be like that." Be like you better.
Absolutely. Wise
But I
words.
appreciate you getting inspiration. I appreciate that.
Totally. That's the idea. Well, cool thing, Mike. Again, I really do appreciate it, and we will be talking again real soon. All right, guys, that does it for today. Thank you again so much for listening. You can find the show notes to this episode at zachhenderson.com/Michael. That's Michael. Stay tuned. We've got lots more great episodes coming up for you. Until then, stay strong.